Howdy folks, it's Meandering Mike in the Man Cave of Madness. It's after midnight and we're here amidst our miniatures. As you can see here, we've got a fair bit of them on the table right now. This is an update about what I've been working on a bit this week, especially on Wednesday and Thursday. I got back to doing some painting that I hadn't been doing in a while. Some of you know I've been participating in the painting challenge on NotJay's Tabletop Gaming that we started back on April 1st. There was a podcast there of a 24-hour painting challenge where I wasn't on for 24 hours. I got on and off for maybe, 16-ish hours. But people were on nonstop. And the whole challenge lasts through the end of June, and I'm behind, of course, but this is actually quite an accomplishment for me because before this, I hadn't really painted anything since the early 90s. I mean, I think I touched up maybe one figure or something, but actually painting any new figures, than anything since the early 90s. So this has been nice. I've got a lot of stuff with paint on them, but nothing is 100% complete yet, but unfortunately I don't really say I'm a perfectionist in that regard, but I probably spend way too much time on some of these than I should. So I'm going to show you some of these guys that I'm working on here. Let's look at that guy there first. That is a giant swamp raptor of Jargono. Let's see if he's going to get too out of focus if I get too close. This is from the game Shadows of Brimstone. I'm going to go back. There we go. Shadows of Brimstone. This is done in speed paints. Did some blending. These were version 1.0 speed paints. The tiger stripe effect on his body was also blending. I'm gonna do my first attempt at basing with some fancy stuff. I used to always just paint my bases mostly just a crazy lime green color. No, that's not what I'm gonna finish here, but I need to paint this rock. I'm gonna do it a little gray and then put some kind of greenish mossy lichen on it, and then I'm gonna use, that's what these are here. I bought 3 different kinds of Vallejo mud. You got Russian mud. Let me go back and zoom in over there, see if we can, come on. Yep, there we go. Russian mud, thick brown mud, and European mud are those 3 dudes. So that's gonna, I'll test and figure out which one I like the best for the base. And then I'll probably put some kind of matte sealer on it. Well, after I put some swamp grass tufts or whatnot on there. The only thing I might do to finish this guy off, well, there was a little bit of acrylic, so I did the eyeball in black with a little tiny, the reflection dot in the middle there. Is that still too hard to get into focus? I don't know. The light, our eyeballs are white with the black pupil. Well, with animals, I usually go black or yellow or red sometimes, depending on what kind of nighttime or feral glow-in-the-dark look I want. Oops, not seen him very much. But I usually put a little, this is actually off-white. It's like Mummy's Robe is the name of the color. So he's very, very near to done, besides the base. Let's look over here at this side. These are one of the first things I worked on when I started painting again. Let's zoom in more. I'm not totally liking the color combinations of the grays and the browns. It looks okay on the camera level, but when I zoom in there, I don't know. I'm not 100% pleased. Maybe I'm being too picky. I'll probably go over some of these gray rocks and do some lighter gray brushing or highlighting, and the kind of like khaki colors I'm going to go over and maybe add some ink lines on those or something, kind of balance it all out. But it looks pretty good to the camera. These guys I spent a lot of time on, even though they seem pretty simple. I like them, one, because I decided not to use the base because they got the nice bottom underneath. These are called flesh mites. Am I going to need to zoom out a little bit so that it can focus better? I think they're really cool. I think I want to do a little highlighting on the shell, at the shell lines or something there. Not too much. I don't want them to look overemphasize the segmentation, but they're close. And I don't 100% like the eyes. I don't want them to look. I don't want them to look too. I don't want them to have like cute Hello Kitty eyes. But they need a little better eyes. But those are really close to being done. These are about 95% done. What are these called again? Let's see. They're not the hell vermin. They're scourge rats. Scourge rats. I have 18 of them. 9 of them are about like this, 90% done, and the other ones are. I'm not showing anything that's less than half done. This is mostly speed painted again. 1.0s. I like the what was it? Sand golem color that came out on the tail. The body's a little too dark. I can't remember if that was like saddle leather or something like that. This was a little darker than I wanted. Pallid bone for the little spikes coming out of his back and things like that. So, not sure. These are their nests. Yeah, there's some more of those guys. Let's zoom in. Boom. That's the bag of the other 6, and there's 9 more again that were. These are their nests. You can see the 3 holes. So these guys, if you can imagine, you know, they're kind of a thin guys, and without the stand and all that, they could come jumping out those holes. Some of them don't seem that big, but you know, they're nice, agile critters, and they can get through there. So it's almost like a beaver's nest, but you can see like there's some bones of various animals, carcass and stuff, like a skull down there sticking out, things like that. So these are about 70% done. I want to go over the logs and do some dry brushing on that. Get an ink on that. Campfires and log piles. It's hard to do a good looking flame, you know, because it's like you got your logs on fire and the flame would be sticking up, and it's like, well, do I do all these solid red stuff? Do I show the logs in there? So these are like, you know, they're burning, but the flame would really be bigger. It'd be really hard to do a really good campfire thing unless you're molding in multiple colored plastics. Like if you could do some kind of resin casting where you have opaque brown logs, and then you've got orange and yellowish, reddish, translucent material for what would be your flame or something, that would be cool. So this is an example of just, here's a stacked up fire, you know, ready to go, like a quick burn signal fire or something like that. So these are things that I worked on today. These 3 guys here, let me move them forward a bit so you can see them better against the white. I wanted to have, these are swamp slugs of Jargona. Let me get that all straighter for you. Again, Shadows of Brimstone, Shadows of Brimstone, Shadows of flesh mites. The logs, campfires and stuff, and the stone plinths and gate and all that stuff. These are from Bad Squiddo Games. Bad Squiddo Games. They're produced by this gal in England. She does a lot of terrain stuff. She doesn't. She's not there. She's the entrepreneur. She has artists to do the casting and molding and such and sculpting. But she's got a nice line of female figures. So if you want, like your Lagertha from the Vikings and Joan of Arc and all different Rosie the Riveter stuff from different parts of history. You got a lot of those. Russian snipers in World War II, and the Wax and the Waves, different female participants in the various wars, etc. So if you're interested in a lot of terrain features and or female miniatures, check out that line. Support independent entrepreneur, Bad Squiddo Games. So back to these guys here. These are the swamp slugs of Jargono. These are my first use of the Army Painter 2.0 formulation speed paints. They definitely dry faster. They definitely are more opaque. And that means when you come up against a dark one that you're not used to, so like this color underlying here was Absolution Green, was much too dark for my taste, what I envisioned. This material here was called Decaying Brown or Decaying Material or something. That's probably too close. It was too dark. So I ended up dry brushing on the top pale ochre acrylic from the Army Painter line. And over the top, that's the same color I also used this. So it was really interesting to get that over both parts. And so it works in my eye. I mean, this is still a little dark for me. Maybe I'm going to go with a little lighter green to lightly dry brush just a few parts on here. But what I did was each of these slugs, the body was a different set of green. I'd use the undercolor on one was called Rotting Flesh, or no. Oh boy, I looked it up just a little bit ago and it's already going out of my brain. Some kind of two levels of kind of a palish green, malignant. Malignant green and maggot, maggot green or maggot skin or something like that. Yeah. And then those were sort of like too light. I knew I wanted to sort of like I did on the dude here, where I blended these and they blended quite well. The fact that the underpart had dried on these, and even though I used some speed paint medium, no. The blending was not going to happen, but I still went for sort of that effect of multiple colors. I used some Zealot Yellow and two different colors. So there's a shared green across these two, and then two differing greens underneath. And then this one has like spotted yellow parts, and this one has stripes. So this has sort of three striped colors all kind of put together. And that has the two greens kind of striped, and then the yellow model. And then I used the same pale ochre acrylic to dry brush that Decaying Brown or Brown Decaying Matter, or whatever it was called. It was too dark. And I dry brushed the ridge and the grassy part. So this is kind of like a half slug, half centipede, right? Kind of. So it's not exactly legs, but this is more grippy part here. And then these accentuated grippy parts near the maw. So I anticipate these look like these actually have turned into actual bony, teethy, grabby, crushy things. So I'm going to try to, since I can't use pale bone speed paint over the top of this, too light, I'm going to take like something close to mummy robe, or a little bit darker than mummy robe, and I'm going to highlight over these. And I want to lighten up the antennae, but not too close. I mean, I want to use some, I'm not sure, off-white, maybe some kind of gray, where I mix in maybe, I've not experimented with mixing some speed paint with acrylic to see what happens. To to the antenna. But what I want this kind of like skull cap part to be like, I want it kind of blackish. I don't know if you ever look closely on a slug or a snail, and it's black, but it's glistening. It looks wet, slimy, and so I want to use some kind of gloss, but not too glossy. Make it look damp and wet. Like this is the part of the slug that's going to be extra vulnerable to heat or salt or whatever. It's like the body normally is going in through the mud. I was actually thinking of getting some of that Vallejo mud that I was going to base with and try to work it into, the crawly bits here. And I don't know if I could thin it enough and just get some sort of like almost doing a wash of mud on the, you're not seeing that very well, on the under part. So obviously normally you're not showing this part here, but I want to color it anyway. There's some guys that don't need bases, but I want to color them underneath. And of course if I cover this whole bottom part with mud, then it's like, okay, that's realistic, You pick it up, you only see mud if you tip it over. It was all muddy. It was actually running around the mud, and here have some mud coming off the grippy bits. Boy, my fingers are all full of paint and chapped. And yeah, some kind of mud wash coming down the interior part. So 3 different green bodies, the same outside crawly bits between the 3, some kind of glossy, wettish look. Some maybe find some effect paint. I think I have, what is it called? Fairy dust or something. I want something between with more of a gel-like, a translucent gel. Make it kind of a little maybe even more blacker than this brown, or at least, I don't know. That's my thought. So these guys are not done because of that. I want to experiment with that. This guy's still too dark for me. I'm gonna probably do some very light airbrushing of the next tone up of between the greenish end or the yellowish there. Don't want to do too much, but yeah, I just a little overall too dark for me. Yeah, I like how they're each slightly different but the same. They're cousins. They're cousins. So anyway, so these are all, I would say 70 to 95% done. Got little things to do on them. The only thing I got here that's really not done at all is that, and the reason I'm showing that is that's my first airbrushing. This bridge was black, and I used this acrylic ink called Rust or something like that. I can't remember what the color name is. I bought a airbrush that is a little tiny, the compressor is chargeable by a USB port, and it's easy to carry the whole thing. You don't even need a hose. You screw right into here. The top, you can use a hose, or the top of the compressor could go right into there, and so it's not super powerful, not a professional airbrush compressor at all, but it works for this, and it came with an actual airbrush, which was, I only spent like $60 on that thing, right? That's chargeable thing, and I was able to get this for, I can't remember if this was 40 or 50. So this is like an airbrush nozzle thing where you can mix your paints and put them in glass jars. It only comes with one of them, and it's actually kind of expensive to buy more of these. It's like, wow, that's almost as much expensive as this is. But it turned out that this brand of acrylic marker pen refills, these fit in there perfectly. So that's what I used. My first airbrushing was just priming this guy. So that was one of the things I did. That was 2 or 3 weeks ago I did that. But that's what I've been working on. Doing some airbrushing with that tool. Gonna start figured out how to base things with mud, and I've got tufts of grass and this and that and various dirts and sprinkles and all that stuff. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can see more of these puppies. Things are almost complete. Should be close to complete, but I'm gonna diddle around with that. I got a few things to do with these, etc., etc. So these guys have the most work probably left. And of course, I got about 4 or 5 more log things to do and some other miniatures that are only half done and stuff. But my odds of finishing all that I plan to do by the end of June are not great, but I'm going to get as much as I can, and I'm going to call it a win for myself. Again, because I had not painted minis. Is that 30 years? Yeah, it's 2023. Yeah. It was probably 91 or 92 was the last time I painted. Almost for certain. So that's a win. So this is Meandering Mike in the Man Cave of Madness, talking about miniatures. Some of you are saying, Mike, where is your playthrough of Tannenberg, the Der Weltkrieg introductory scenario? Well, it's not done. I'll get to it. I promise. We got things to do. We got organizational things, more man cave stuff. I've been moving comic boxes up from the storage unit. I got more racks and some more to do. So I need to do another update on that soon. So we're going to call that quits here. Get this guy done and uploaded, and then work on my weekly update for Dan's channel. For those of you that watch that, if you don't, you should subscribe to the show No Enemies Here. That's the name of the channel. If you're into gaming, it's mostly war game oriented, but it's other games too. He also talks about, some channels that do history and even horror movies. He throws a lot of stuff in there. It's an interesting show. He's quite a character. So check out No Enemies Here. Little plug for him. So, and also check out NotJay's Tabletop Gaming, that channel. I'm a frequent. I frequently participate in the type chat, and occasionally I'm online there, talking and chattering about stuff there. So that's it for now. I'm gonna let you guys go. You're saying, hey, come on, quit meandering, Mike. So, Meandering Mike, Man Cave of Madness. To all you good folks out there, take care. Enjoy your hobbies, even if you haven't done them in many, many years. Give it a try. Get back to it. You might find out how much you missed it. So take care and ciao.